get what we deserve. Father, tell me. Oh, we get what we deserve. And where down we go, 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 go. Oh, where down we go, 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 go. So where down we go, go, go. Way down we go. Whoa, you let your feet run wild. Thomas, come as we all go down. Yeah, but for the folk who my heart, do you dare to look around?
Good morning, everybody. RT here from Hxro Labs on Friday, June 25th. Big options expiry today. Maybe a nothing burger, maybe all kinds of excitement. What I do know is that the one person I know who knows options best casually said to me, well, they usually dump into the event and then recover. I asked him to stop right there, and that was the end of that. Another article I read this morning from Cointelegraph pointed out a lot of previous options expiries didn't really amount to a whole lot. Any action into or out of them was also explained by other factors. So I'm not too concerned with that today, to be completely honest. I'm going live early today because I got a fancy invite to a little patio lunch, and it's somebody I don't get to see very often. So I said, you know what? We can go live early today. A little bit of volatility in the market, sitting at support. Everyone feeling bearish. It's the nature of these ranges. So we're going to get after it. We're going to look at the charts. We're going to start with the weekly, start zooming in, get right down to that nitty-gritty 15-minute. Depending on your trade plan and what time frame you like, this has been a really fun place to trade. For the most part, it's not been that fun. It's been a lot of stress. You know, up 2K, things look bullish. Down 2K, things look bearish. We haven't left the range. Nothing's really changed. Again, depending on your time frame. I think there are some 15-minute traders who are probably thinking, oh, I could have shorted last night. I did look at it at 35.5. I was actually just going to bed, and I was like, I could short hedge here. But I'm long the 4-hour, and I struggle to take positions opposite to my higher time frames. For example, if I'm long the 4-hour, I really struggle taking like a 15-minute scalp short overnight. That's not really my plan, so I'm not too beat up about not getting in on that. However, obviously this morning it's like straight down, would have been filled already on my take profits. That's the way it goes. Sugar, Texas, what's up? Or TX, transaction? I don't know. Hard made easy. Now, I think I scared off. There's 10 people waiting in the waiting room a second ago, and I put on Calio's Way Down We Go, and then it dropped to like 2. So I think I scared off the paper hands. Now we can get down to business. Let's fly over to the charts. Well, why not? We'll start with the BTC shorts, which seem to be picking up this morning, which is causing a lot of people to change their life plans. You know, a lot of people were thinking about longs from range lows, and the last 2 times these little things happened, we did get some downside volatility until the shorts closed. Now, I mean, I don't like to overread into this. It is good info. It's nice to see what the open interest is. It is just one exchange. We know, and I know, like there's software out there where you can trade basically on a third-party, platform that APIs your funds across multiple exchanges. And in fact, you can even arbitrage using some of these fancier platforms between exchanges without even withdrawing and depositing. Basically, like this huge liquidity, I guess, what do you call it, company, whatever. They basically have your funds scattered across all these exchanges, and they basically let you trade either way. Point being, when I see this kind of data, I mean, I don't have an edge. Like, I don't have a way to put it into my trade plan to say, when short interest rises, I should be bearish. It just says that somebody on Bitfinex is taking a large short position. I've seen those get blown out before. I've also seen those be, a hedge where somewhere else they're very long and they're simply taking this short out in case it dumps, and they're happy to close it at a small loss as a premium for insurance on their portfolio. There's just so many different things going on here. So I'm not going to change my trade right now based on that. And if if we end up nuking and it's like, new lows, I get stopped out. That was part of the deal, right? I signed up for that when I took my long position in the low 30s, which is frankly pretty close to break even. I'd love to say I sniped 29K, 30K, but I didn't. But my 4-hour bias, as we'll pull that up here, ETH looks like shit. I think it could be retesting those lows, which would be a long if it wasn't so nasty looking on the weeklies and stuff. Bitcoin coming into the pump chaser zone, almost had a little doji forming here a little while ago. And this is the time frame that my trade is on, is the 4-hour. And so, until we lose this range low, really until we lose this wick, I got to be long. It's a wide stop area for me on this one. And so, as uncomfortable as it can be, right, to get up here, like breaking down yesterday's price action, we got up midday, smacked down. I was like, oh shit, maybe we're going to dump. And then we pushed through that. I was like, that's impressive. Confirmed bullish market structure. Pushed higher again just before bed. And I was like feeling pretty good going to sleep, right? And then you wake up, you're like, oh, okay. Like, take it all back in one trade. But it just is what it is. This is a range. It's a shitty, choppy range. It's not going to be a straight line up. And as copy as that might sound, my setup invalidates all the way down here. So I really have to just kind of roll with it. Now, is there a trade here on other time frames? And one of my mistakes is sometimes getting into a higher time frame trade that I expect to take weeks to play out, but then looking at the 15-minute and getting bullish or bearish based on low time frames. Interestingly, on Up Only TV recently, John Bollinger Bands guy, he went on there. I watched the interview. It was great. Guy is smart. He's experienced. Lots of good info. And that was actually one of the errors he talked about that a lot of people do. Is you set your bias, you set your trade, whatever, on a higher time frame, and then you get yourself chopped out of it on low time frames. So, I just watched that. I was like, oh, that's something like I do. Put it in my trade journal. I was like reflecting on it. And so, for better or worse, my 4-hour trade is not going anywhere. And, in a weird way, I love this pump chaser zone. I don't really think we're in like a place where I'm trading it a lot. I just put it on here because I think, there's a decent chance that we just chill here, maybe wick below and then go back. But really, off those lows, my favorite trade is to see a big nasty low come in, not really worry about it too much. Watch for the complacency bounce after, and then get into this reload zone. Because guess what? If we get into here, it's game over. Like mentally, people are just going to be like, oh, we're certainly, definitely 100% going into a 1-year bear market. People will puke here without really losing these lows. Certainly not losing this if we stop here. So as much as I, now I'm looking back, I'm like, okay, I picked up my Bitcoin through here, picked up some through here. Now I'm basically break even. Could I have short hedged, waited long down here? Yes, all these things. But my setup was reclaim the range and then get long if we do. And we did. And in fact, we confirmed bullish market structure on the 4-hour just yesterday, which kind of was what I was looking, if anything, to add to my position. Thinking like, okay, yeah, we got back inside range. We popped up. Yes. But this alone is a lower low, like if we're thinking about candle closes, and then a new high. So when I'm looking for bullish reversal, bullish market structure, uptrend, that right low has to be higher than the left. So this wasn't really confirmed yet, but here we got the higher low and then confirmed. So, and what do I always say, right, guys? Like after, you get the higher low and the confirmation, then it's time to go look for those nasty dips. And so that's just what we're getting. But I'm not going to lie, guys, it's not fun. I'm not sitting here like, yeah, we're going to the moon. Like, I know for sure. I get uncomfortable too. I put size on the trade, and sometimes it's just like, you want to wake up feeling like a boss. It's Friday, just had a nice rally for 2 days, and now you wake up and you have to start questioning whether you could have played it differently. Like, that's normal, I think. I'd love to be like, I am emotionless. I am a robot trader. I am perfect. I'll get there someday. I'm sure I will. I'll get to a place where I've sized such that this stuff doesn't affect me at all. A couple $100 up, a couple $100 down, whatever. Like, find that level where you don't give a shit what happens. It's like peanuts. That's really the way you should be trading. Or just having setups that are so well vetted and so, I guess, well known to you that you're like fully accepting the risk when you get in. I am accepting the risk to the downside, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not super comfortable with it. I don't want to lose 3 or 4% of my portfolio. It's a sizier risk because of all the stuff we talked about on Wednesday around just the higher time frames, things I'm seeing, the sentiment. Oh my God. What are we at today? We were at 22 yesterday. Do I refresh this? 27. We're climbing a little bit. I actually prefer to see that down in the dumps when I'm getting long. So at 10 the other day, that's when I decided, like, okay, like a high time frame. Let's zoom out. Let's get to the weekly. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Because I'm not here to be like, ooh, we're going down. Like, we're ranging higher for now, period. That's just it. We're in a range. We've been in a range. It's been pretty clear cut. We did a swing failure pattern at the top, grabbing all that liquidity, dumping it almost straight down, shitting everyone's pants. Scooped liquidity at the bottom. Nice volume coming in. Now the bulls appear to be taking back control. The higher buy than sell. And we just confirmed 4-hour structure near range lows. So, yeah, I'm at least 60-40 that we're ranging higher, probably closer to 70-30. So let's just get that out of the way because sometimes it's hard when you go live and it's like, we've just watched 12 hours of downside. Like, it's hard to stay bullish because in the range, right, it's like, we're bull, we're bear, we're bull, we're bear. Drives you crazy. But I just want to get that out of the way while we go over to the weekly. Because objectively speaking, the weekly looks like shit. I'm not a Wyckoff guy. I was just drawing this up for shit, so we're going to delete that. It was basically, I'd seen someone's analysis that basically says, yeah, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 is the big one, wave 4, and then a shitty little wave 5, and that ends the move, and then you have a corrective phase up. I was like, if that happens, I might have to go look into Wyckoff. I actually got a DM from somebody on Twitter yesterday. He was like, I am at the Wyckoff Institute. Would you like to join us and share our ref links? I was like, I don't know about that. But I would like to learn more about it, so I might hit her up. Anyhow, looking at the weekly on Bitcoin, I'm super bullish on Bitcoin. That's it, period. Like, fundamentally long term. So, when do I want to back up the truck? When do I want to load? After a weekly W, like if we're in a downtrend, waiting for that weekly W to come in. It's not the tool I needed. That's the ultimate kind of answer. If we're going to be bearish, let's wait for that weekly W to come in and then the breakout. And then I can be like pretty comfortable getting, longer in spot and holding it. So this is not that. This does look like shit. But this is a huge pullback after a huge rally. And objectively speaking, Bitcoin is here to stay. I mean, there's nothing about anything that's going on with Bitcoin that tells me it's at risk of not being a thing. And if it's going to be a thing, it's going to be a big thing as far as like valuation compared to where it is now, right? You see that adoption curve versus the internet. It's outpacing the internet on adoption. We've got Panama now talking about legal tender after El Salvador, who's giving out $30 worth of Bitcoin to every citizen. Who are not even going to need a cell phone network to access that app and basically have cell phone, connectivity. Now we got banks talking about downgrading this El Salvador banks if they hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet, blah, blah, blah. We knew that was going to happen. But you know what I mean? So am I going to sell a bunch of spot? I mean, certainly not the stuff I just bought. That's a long setup. It's risking to hear. But like the people, I find it odd. There's a lot of reply guys and just people who don't really trade too much who wouldn't hear it up here, right? It was like, we're going to the moon. You're a fucking idiot. That's not a blow off top, blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly down here, they're cutting their Bitcoin, getting into stables, cutting their altcoins and telling me and, whoever else might be bullish down here that like, oh, we're definitely going to 20K, have fun staying poor. I just don't feel like they're on the right side of the trade. And like, I have so many reasons to be long here. They're mostly technical, some fundamental, and what people think and all that stuff. That doesn't have much to do with it, but it certainly helps me feel better knowing that people who wouldn't even consider taking profits up here now sold presumably underwater to buy back just a little bit cheaper. And I've seen that play out so many times in markets, just like people who will buy up here just to sell a little bit higher and they never get it. Again, this is all conjecture. It's not part of my trading plan. It's not how I trade, but just for discussion purposes, I find it really interesting how many people, and the best traders I know, for the most part, they're really bullish right now. And that's normal. I mean, you'd expect that because whether it goes up or down from here, the risk reward is certainly, I would think, to the upside. Given that we're just sitting on weekly support, we had a big swing failure pattern, the buy volume's heating up, BTC shorts aside, all that bullshit aside, the bottom here was a buy. More was accumulated than sold. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. I feel like there's a better chance that the right side of this range low to be on, obviously, is long. I certainly can't short anything down here. So, I mean, I guess I could sit on the sidelines. But even if this wasn't the bottom, I really, really think that the next move is to grab liquidity up here, at the very least. If not, then squeeze it and run a little higher. Because you guys know, from the highs, it's not the key level to watch right here. From the highs, I think it's really strange that a market wouldn't come back up and hit the reload zone, the short reload zone, before it moves down. It works both ways. It works an uncanny amount of times. So I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts on this. Like, again, it sucks to see a 4 hour down, 4 hour down, 4 hour down after confirming bullish structure, but it's pretty fucking normal. So it's definitely not going to like change my mind on my long exposure here. And we'll see. If we puke out, I really do. And the thing that sucks, the thing I hate most about this setup, is I don't love this setup. I like it. I don't love it. The thing I hate about it is that if we do lose these lows, just say straight away, just bing, 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 bing. Oh no, we were wrong. Then we're getting into an area where I'm like, of course it's in the reload zone. That's where I should buy Bitcoin. So like, what am I going to sell here, buy here? Like, I don't know. I'm just generally very uncomfortable doing any selling when this is what the crypto fear greed looks like, and when that's kind of where Bitcoin is in its range. Fully aware of the risks, that it might actually just be a really shitty, sloggy year and get lower than we all think, which it often does. But in some ways it already has. I don't know if anyone, back here was saying by end of June we'll be at 32. So who knows? But, this is all conjecture. It's all discussion. It's overthinking. I'm not doing anything today. I got nothing to do, Picked up my Bitcoin, confirmed bullish structure. Looks like we're ranging higher. And now we're pulling back. If we get into here, I'm not going to cut my spot long because my invalidation is below, but I am going to be looking for some levered longs because, not just blindly like, oh, we're range lows, I'm going to long. But if we get in here, just say, I wouldn't love it. It would definitely make things look weaker, but just say we get in here somehow over the next couple days. We get down there. Momos are in divergence, right? They're starting to look upwards and we're getting bullish divergence. Now, if we do something like that, and then there's a little dip, like I may look to lever long there against whatever that low is and increase, some of that long exposure. That's the only trade I can really see here. Or if we squeeze back up here on weakness and it looks really shitty and it's like, oh, okay, exhaustion pump over the weekend, like I may look to short hedge my spot. So those are a couple things I'm looking at. There's a lot more to it with momentum indicators, volume, but for a rough look, those are the next things I might do in the market. Right now, I am just long and no leverage, right? I fucked around with a couple little longs you guys might have seen in the Discord, which is in the description. If you guys aren't in the Hxro Labs trading pit, you can hop in. Lots of good discussion in there. I think a lot of the moon boyishness has washed out, and I noticed that a lot of the people who stuck around are quite sharp and thoughtful and pretty chill. Like, it's a nice little community. It's free. So if you're not in there already, hop in. I'm in there most days just chatting, sharing ideas, banter, bullshit. It's fun. And so, yeah, yesterday, little alpha long, little ONT long, low time frames, scalps. and out of those now. So let's take a look at the chat. It's kind of my opening rant. We can look at ID. Getting antsy to jump on some of these 15% drops. Yeah, ID, let's take a look. Prob hopium, but when January options expire, similar to size of today, we pumped the following week. Yeah, no, I really do think that the options are a nothing burger, if anything, rolling over into them because it's a big fundamental event, I guess you could say. It's kind of a known though. And then once that's in the past, the difficulty adjustment coming up at the end of the month. And then also Chinese miners are slowly going to get back online. Right now, the hash rate is still going down, which you'd expect. I think it was something like 45% of the network was being mined in China, maybe a little higher. But they're going to slowly be plugging back in. And the other miners that are still on the network are kind of getting screwed right now because the difficulty is still so high, so they're not getting any more of the pie, so to speak. So when that difficulty adjustment happens, they will, they'll be making more money again. In fact, they'll have a larger share of the network until those Chinese miners reallocate or relocate and get back online. Now, if I was mining, I don't know, what would you do? I guess it's the same as if those guys were still online or not. They were still at the same difficulty, whatever. Large piece of the pie now. Blocks might be a little slower. But I don't know. Maybe there's some miners turning off their machines for a little bit until the difficulty adjusts. I guess it's possible. I'm really not big on the dynamics of mining and hash network and all that stuff. It's not really my area, but I'm keeping an eye on this, and I do think it'll be back. I mean, I'm almost certain it'll hit all-time highs someday. This Chinese migration is actually bullish for Bitcoin. How many times did you hear that knock on Bitcoin where it's like, yeah, well, the Chinese control it. It's like, okay, well, they just kicked everyone out, so there goes that. So I'm pretty unfazed by this. If anything, I think it's kind of bullish, and that's part of why, even though I don't absolutely love this setup, fear is at an all-time high. I mean, certainly for the year. We're what? We load at 56% off the highs. Previous bear markets at the most went, let's see, what am I doing here? 85. 85% off the highs is like 9K. That doesn't fit any models I have. So if we're going into an 85% pullback at 9K, it doesn't make sense to me. And then, so I don't know. It's kind of bullshit, but it doesn't make sense to me. I feel like we have to go higher before we do any kind of bullshit like that. If we ever, need to have the big 85er again. Maybe it's a new paradigm. Golf Doc, what's up? Good to see you, brother. Over on TradingView. Early stream today. Yeah, I jumped on early today, Jonesy, because I got an invite to a fancy lunch on a patio, and I thought, oh, I'm going to really say no to that. And I don't know what you guys, but sometimes I find waiting through to later in the Friday afternoon is kind of delaying the weekend. So anyways, fired it up early. Got a meeting in an hour, so we've got to get off there and go see Rob and Dan and hear what the Hero team's been up to. But other than that, came in to talk charts, and it's also we're bearish at support again, a lot of people, so I just thought, fuck it. Let's go see what we can find objectively on the charts. What do you think is a sustainable price for Bitcoin over the next 3 years? David, that is an outstanding question. I feel like I can get a better chart. And I don't have an answer, but let's see if we can come to some kind of logical exploration of that question. So that's not enough. We need more history. Let's go to Bitstamp. Oh, there we go. Okay. I mean, this is the history of Bitcoin on Bitstamp. I think it went back a little further. That's 2011 though. So that's pretty far. And, there's a clear trend. But these bear markets, don't tell anyone that there's an uptrend during this. This was the most depressing thing you've ever seen in your life. I actually rode this entire fucking 6K drop with Bitcoin thinking I was so safe because I wasn't in altcoins anymore. I was like, that's okay. What's the worst that could happen? 50% overnight or whatever. I was like, oh my God. So I've been through it. And it made it very hard to pick Bitcoin up here, even though there was some setups firing over on TRI, because I was so butthurt from that drop. So I think that's why I'm so obsessed with taking off risk and paying myself generally, because I've learned that if you don't take risk off during extreme greed or when big bearish setups come in during a bull market, if you don't take some profits there, then it's very hard to take the next trade, which is the long after the dip, right? When you're so underwater and you're so butthurt and you're so wrecked, it's very hard to see the forest for the trees and start getting long at whatever maybe the next trade is, right? So, being long here was a good trade, no matter how you look at it, just because it was a throwback to the Wyckoff level here. It was like an 88.6 tag on a fib. We had just come down so bloody far, so even a reversion was a good long. Like, this was objectively the best place to long of 2020. But if you got caught in this dump, it's extremely hard to want to long here. And thank God that I did not, for the most part. I saw Trump tweet that European borders were going to close or whatever, that they're not letting Europeans in. That was right here. And I was like, oh my God, like, this is going to get ugly. So I cut the last of my Bitcoin. I was actually short from here, but I closed that early thinking I was a champ. But it doesn't matter. But yeah, so and that allowed me to buy this little fib reload zone right here. Not with size. I held some cash like an idiot, like as if we'll go lower. You never know. So how long is a sustainable price? Long term? I mean, you got to watch Thomas Lee. Thomas Lee's cryptocurrency presentation in 2018. I found that fascinating. Not because he said Bitcoin could be worth $10 million. Because of course now it's like, that's crazy. But let's entertain that for a sec. I mean, you have to watch his video. We should all sit together, eat popcorn, watch together, and discuss. But basically, he does just like a generational cycle analysis. Talking about where how the boomers affected certain markets, like the equities markets, and how the millennials are a larger investing cohort than the boomers, and how they are already having an effect on the RV markets because they're entering their savings and investing years. And so, he's just like, in how that may play out over the next 20, 30 years. Like, we could see blah, blah, blah. They're preferring cryptocurrency. We could see it at 10 million. And that just sounds ridiculous, but he's not making big, bold predictions as much as saying this is what his analysis shows. So I see that. I prescribe to that. I'm not going to rule that out. And so I guess my question is, once it hits a certain threshold, what is the number that Bitcoin has to hit, the level of adoption that it has to achieve before it is just kind of like cats out of the bag? Bitcoin will be a global, long-term, macro, store of value, blah, blah, blah. Where do we need to go to get there? And I guess my point, I was thinking the other day with my buddy, I was like, so if we get to $1 million Bitcoin, what's stopping us from going to 5 or 10, right? Because you compare the market cap at 5 and 10, and it's not that crazy if you're thinking 5% of global wealth or whatever is stored in it. So am I calling for these prices? Is there any value in me making that bold prediction out? No. Trade the setups. Let's find some analysis. Let's there's going to be some really violent swings all through there, and it's not my style to just like hold on and ride it. So all that to say, I think the cat is already out of the bag. I really do. I don't think that there's like this whole like, well, Bitcoin could go to zero. I really don't think it could. I think it could go down. I think it could definitely go down for a while. And I always find it fascinating when it's like the long-term holders are accumulating more Bitcoin. I'm like, eventually they're just going to own it all, because it seems like for the most part, new entrants into the space just can't hold their goddamn coins. So, yeah, we'll see. The weekly looks like shit, or excuse me, the daily also. Generally speaking, you're like, oh, these EMAs were bullish. They crossed bull. They were going up. 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 Oh, cross bear. And now it looks like shit. So if I wanted to really be long-term investee, like chill, this is probably not where I'd buy. I'd probably, at the very least, you want to keep it simple, take the 12 and 26 EMA and wait for those to cross bullish, at least if you want to start DCAing. Me personally, I've showed you guys my setup of the 4-hour, the sweep of the lows, and I really do think, especially with the bulls starting to wake up a little bit here on volume, I really do think there's a decent chance we squeeze higher before and if we were to head lower. But I've been wrong before, and I'll be wrong again. So I can only say how I'm positioned. I really don't know what anyone else should do. So those are my thoughts. What time do the ETH options expire? That's a good question. I don't have it off the top of my head. I think it would be something like noon to 4 p.m. It's not a very helpful range, but it's usually in, I think, the afternoon. Wish I was an options guy, because it's another thing you can trade, but not 100% on that. Maybe somebody in the chat knows. Often, Yeah, Grayscale unlocks are a huge event. Yeah, so I mean, bottom line is, guys, there is fear in the market. And you got to check in with yourself and ask yourself, how is that fear affecting, your position, your abilities, your outlook? There's nothing wrong with flatlining your account to Tether, Cash, whatever, and just waiting till you feel better about stuff. Waiting till you have a little more edge, that you feel like you see something that the market hasn't priced in yet, and then trading it. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I did that a lot of the way through here. I sold most of my altcoins up here because I just thought at the very least they look like shit. I sold the rest at the 42K drop, wherever that was, right here. Got a lot of cash up in my account, relative, percentage-wise, up to 70%. And traded this range a couple times, not perfectly, not as well as I would have liked, but I bought my Bitcoin back here. Sue me. We'll see. ETH looks like shit. Ethereum looks really poopy, guys. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I don't know what's going to happen with Bitcoin. I'm leaning long, but Ethereum versus Bitcoin looks terrible. I think it's going to go all the way down here. I really do. It has a few days to save the weekly. Okay, but let's take a look at that weekly, guys. This is not, this is not what you want to see on a chart that you want to be bullish on. This is the last thing you want to see. This is the beginning on a weekly time frame of something that says we're coming down. And so my hope is, and the bull case here, is that Bitcoin is going to rally up a bit, or what, crab over the summer, whatever. I don't think it's. Where's my higher time frame? Damn it! Oh, I'm all mixed up here. Where is it? I don't think I'm sitting here saying like I'm long Bitcoin to the moon. It's more like, I think, where's the 200? I think we're going to retest this from the underside at some point, and it's going to go down until it meets price, right? Someday it'll meet price. Could it meet price down here? Sure. More likely, I think it'll meet price somewhere here. And that's my first trade. The longs that I picked up here, spot longs, I'll probably get a little cautious around that 200 MA. And I'm okay to like cut some there and then, oh, look, we're actually above it. Okay, look for the next long. But that 200 MA is going to get a tag. It's a guarantee, right? Because the 200 moving average follows price. So someday they will interact. I'm betting that they will interact at a higher price than we're at right now. So that's my first target. Second target, short reload zone, somewhere up here, third target. Okay, and all of those scenarios are strength in Bitcoin, which I think is going to play out as weakness in the ETHBTC pair. So when I say this looks really fucking bearish, it's not like USD number go down. It's just that the ratio is going to shift. Very high probability. Not going to sugarcoat it. Not going to say, I don't know. I feel like I do know, but I'm going to withhold, I'm not probably not going to make much money on this because it's not in a place I can short it anymore. But it might be. After we confirm this structure, oftentimes you do get the confirmation of structure and then you get, something like that, and then you go down. So if we get this, oh baby, that's like the short of the year for me. I'm not going to go extra risk on it or anything, but maybe 3 to 4%, crank it up a little. And that would make sense, right? If you look at the TA in a lot of ways, I think I have a better chart of it. Super Bitcoin. Look at this. We are coming into weekly support. There is a hope and a prayer here. Let's not rule it out. Let's see if I can get this now. I did. So one thing I need to do before I go completely bankrupt, one thing I need to do is get a new 4K monitor. I'm on a 1080p to the left. My main one is 4K, and so I draw these up on the 4K, and then they come over here, and the text is not aligned. So I apologize. But look, M-top structure. Now we're sitting at weekly support, so there is a case to be made, and that's why I think. Maybe there's a long here just off this support from this view, but my bigger trade, the one I'm really keen on, is confirm bearish market structure here, which we probably will do in about 2 days unless we spring up, which is possible. Not counting on it. But once we confirm this bearish structure, hey, look, we're at support. That would possibly fuel the little short squeeze up. And then we have the proper rollout into whatever part of that chart down here we have. It's a little clearer over here. Right? So that's kind of like a midterm swing trade that I'm watching on ETHBTC. And that would align, and part of why I love it, is that, like, I mean, look at Bitcoin dominance. It's already had a massive downturn. And it should. DeFi's cool as fuck. Solana, Ethereum, Cardano, taking up a lot of market share. I don't know why, but there's a lot of stuff that grew a lot this year. Bitcoin didn't grow nearly as fast. They all had blow off tops. Bitcoin did not. And now Bitcoin's coming back. It's trending up. Those blow off tops are all receding, and this thing is kind of like a slower and steadier. So, I think dominance is going to reach higher than most people think, as it often does. Came certainly lower than most people thought it would back here. I remember the sentiment here. Everyone thought it was going to 80. So I think this trend has shifted. It's clear as day to me. And that is going to spell disaster for things like ETHBTC, Bitcoin, or altcoins and BTC pairs. And that's normal. If anybody who's been around, guys, this is the dance we play. This is dominance 101. There's Bitcoin season and there's altcoin season. And altcoin season doesn't always have to be blow off tops mania. I mean, it can just be a time when this is trending down. This was a time to be in altcoins. When this broke down, I started taking all my Bitcoin and smashing it into altcoins. This breaks up, I do the opposite. Get used to that. If I had one thing I would share overall in the market, it's just understanding the ebb and flow of altcoins and Bitcoin. For the most part, altcoins are just a tool to accumulate more Bitcoin. That's how the whales use them. That's the game they like to play. Altcoins, they sell us the dream, say this is going to change the world. And I think some of those protocols they're really dope. And they're going to be more than just a tool to accumulate more Bitcoin. But as a asset class, the primary use case of altcoins overall, for the most part, is to play these games. Whales load up low with their Bitcoin, rotate it in, big volume at the lows, accumulation bottoms. They take months, and then rally them like crazy. Bitcoin dominance plunges, alts go crazy. The public flies in, buys them at the high because Bitcoin's way too expensive, and then they rug it. And they rotate all their altcoins back into Bitcoin, and then we do this. That's the ebb and flow, and it's probably the best thing of all the things I've learned in trading and positioning myself. It's probably the most valuable. So we're going to spend a few minutes on that today. Anyway, so that's probably what plays out here, I think. Squeeze up at best, and that would maybe be, a little retest range down at best, and then whatever. So is there a setup there? For sure. If we squeeze up here on short ETHBTC, yep. Position myself mostly long in Bitcoin right now. And that, the scary thing you don't want to have happen is dominance rising while Bitcoin is shooting downwards in USD. That's like the scariest possible outcome for market participants. So altcoins start dumping against Bitcoin while also dumping against BTC. They're losing double. That's what we saw in 2018, 2019. That's the bear market. I don't think we're there. I think Bitcoin is going to begin its next rally, and that'll express itself here as rising dominance. Altcoins getting wrecked versus Bitcoin, and we have a new liquidity cycle. That's my hope. That's what I'd like. That's my setup, and I guess I get invalidated. At least for this 4-hour setup, I get invalidated at these lows, and I get less cash, but I'll be back in it, and then I'll have to reevaluate the market, and then we'll see what. God, it would be so savage if we did a swing failure on the swing failure and then rallied. That would definitely eat my lunch. I would not be long on it from there. So if we break these lows, I really hope at that point we get a nice juicy dip so that me getting stopped out here means something. I wonder how many people are in that boat and how juicy that target is for whales before we go higher. Ooh. Makes you nervous, don't it? So, but that's also just why you manage risk. Like, fuck, I've been wrong before, and I can afford to be wrong, 20, 40, 100 times in a row while still getting to eat dinner, pay rent. It's a really critical part of this stuff, guys. And people are learning that the hard way, as I did. Sometimes you have to learn the hard way. People can tell you to manage risk all they want, but sometimes, sometimes you just got to learn it the hard way. Not good enough to trade this PA, just sitting in the sidelines. Daniel Heenan has identified in himself Hey, Andre Vega, what's up? Daniel Heenan has identified something that's going to save him a lot of money. He's just acknowledging, he says, I'm not good enough to trade this price action, so I'm sitting on the sidelines. That's brilliant. There's a lot of people who will lose more money than you because they didn't recognize that in themselves. So shout out to you. And also shout out to you for just being able to acknowledge that. There's no reason that you have to be, great at trading this stuff. My setups actually work better in ranges, but emotionally through this, I've not had the emotional mindset of a range. I was a little offside. I'll be honest, guys. This has been hard. I was good enough to get long through here, dumb enough to hold through this, maybe a little offsides trying to long the range EQ because I was thinking maybe there's a low, higher low, higher low. There's a setup there. Oh, we lost the higher low. Setup busted. And so I haven't been as bang on as I could have been through here. It's so obvious in retrospect. But I'll tell you what, I'm not going to chase what I consider perhaps busted trades with like chopping myself out of what I think is the best one of those 4 trades, which is getting long through these range lows. So, but there's a lot of people that are just, it's fear. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I'm sick of losing and not knowing. So I'm just going to be in the sidelines. And someday there will be a more, friendly market consensus, number go up, number go down. That's really clear. And we can get that money back at risk then. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's probably optimal. Even for myself, there's a very decent chance that through all this, maybe later this year, maybe it's December, maybe it's September, I may look back and say, I'd have more money if I had just sat on the sidelines. That's a risk I am taking. So, blah, blah, blah. But, for the first time ever, I moved some Bitcoin off exchange to just hold. I'm going to pat myself on the back. I've never been much of a holder, but I picked up such an amount of spot BTC relative to portfolio. Not like I'm an uber whale, 100 Bitcoin, nothing crazy. But I was sitting there, trading the 15-minute on some other coins, and then, getting tempted to like try to overtrade my spot position. I was like, no. So I'm moving it off into an off exchange wallet. And there's a certain amount of Bitcoin I'm just not fucking selling. We're down 50% from the highs. And I am confident in the thesis that is long-term bull on Bitcoin, whether that's 2 months, 3 years, 5 years. And so I am starting to siphon some Bitcoin into an off-exchange wallet that I'm just going to not fucking worry about or touch, and I'm going to completely write it off. And so, that's exciting. It's a first for me. But for the most part, I've got my stop losses here on a chunk of that, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, okay, ID. I was going to say, is there even any altcoins? Like, usually people are like, oh, check out this coin, check out that coin. Look, ID looks poopy, man. Looks like dumpy. But it is at, if I had it on exchange and it was nice and liquid and there were stop losses, like this is where I would want to long it, in a way. Like aside from all the shit we just talked about around altcoins not being sexy right now, if I was just looking at a coin and I see it come way down and then put in a low and then put in a higher low and then break out on volume and then kind of trickle down into the reload zone off of that, like, oof, this is. My bullish bias aside, you guys should know I have a large bag of ID. It's one of the only altcoins I'm just holding blindly because of their whole regulatory framework and everything. I'm just like, well, they're going to be around. I am pretty sure. And I think that the whole industry is heading towards KYC, AML, identity. And these guys have a layer 2 solution plus a globally regulated stablecoin. Built on a fast L2 that can integrate with Solana, Binance Smart Chain, Ethereum, like whatever chain they want. And they have lots of traction, right? They have Philippines, government doing pilots with them, banks, other countries. So, I'm just like a little, I'm underwater, let's be clear. But I'm not going to change my tune at the lows here. So all that to say, like, there is a setup here. Problem is you can't really use stop losses very well on what's it called, Uniswap. So there's definitely something to be said for a DCA here. I might actually even talk myself today into adding just a little bit, 20 cents. The IDO on Kyber was 15 cents. We're getting into that. But, even though 0 is right here, let's play a little game just so we don't get caught up thinking that it's so cheap it can't go lower. 0 is right there. So you're like, oh, well, I've held it this far. What's another inch? But that inch includes a lot of percentage points. Well, let's date. We don't need date. We need price, right? So that inch is like, there's a lot of room in there. We could get a 50% drop. And within that, we could get a 50% drop. And then we could get a 50% drop. So just don't lose sight of how much pain lives in this inch. And I don't say that thinking it'll go there or saying it should or I want it, whatever. But I'm just saying, like, let's not lose sight of, like, oh, it's so cheap. So, it's a good buy. I think this one needs a little time. Like I said, all other things aside, this looks like a bullish market structure reversal. So a dip into that 88.6 is a decent spot for me to think about long-term dollar cost averaging. But if I wanted to scalp long or, 1 month I want a 5x, like, is this the time in the market to get that from an altcoin? Even if it is ID that looks dope? No. So I hope that's as roundabout and without, FOMOing anybody into it as possible, but also not fudding it. It's just objectively what it looks like. Looks like it needs, at best, we're like probably doing this for a while, months. So what's the rush, right? I mean, I guess, and that's sort of the newsletter this week. If you guys ever want to go read that, herolabs.io talked about dollar cost averaging. I laid out a plan that I think anyone could follow and just adjust for their own specifics and play with. Highly recommend checking it out if you're just kind of blindly moving around the market without any real plan. At the very least, it gives you some data points. I mean, just say you have $1,000 in the market. Go run this plan with $100. Test it out. I bet it outperforms most traders, myself included. So I was even thinking about setting up like a side account from within my stuff to just run this and maybe even do it publicly. So see how, we'll see how it does over the next few years. But in a nutshell, it was basically to start dollar cost averaging during fear, buying things, just say once a week during fear. If it's into extreme fear, you start buying things every 2 days, something like that. If it's like neutral, buying things every few weeks or whatever. And then once you get into the greed, it's like start selling 1%, 2%, every week. Gets into extreme greed, you start selling 1%, 2% every 3 days. And then you just play that fucking game for 5 years. Buy, sell, buy, buy. I mean, tell me that's not going to outperform all this emotional, uba baba. People just going ham at the tops. This, because even if you're like fairly conservative and where's my weekly? Where's the weekly? I mean, even if you're like, okay, I'm going to start adding slowly through here. When do you add the biggest buys? When do people really go for it? Take out loans, lever up, do this. They all do it up here. And when do people start rethinking their life choices and taking risk off the table and changing their entire capital outlay to preserve risk? Well, they all start doing that shit down here. So you would instantly be opposite of that. Paying yourself, paying into the market, buying in. Paying yourself, buying in. So that's it. I think that plan really will do well. I just don't have the patience for it, but that's maybe why, you need to have patience. So maybe as a personal thing. Similar lane as ID. Yeah, I keep hearing about Quant. Heard it's doing well. Let's take a quick look at Quant, guys. I've got 10 minutes until I've got a meeting to get to as we come to the top of the hour. Let's go check out Quant. I'm kind of missing my charts here. Where the hell are we? Here we go. Shorts are rising. QNT. Yeah, if we get washed out here and lose the lows, it's gonna suck. I'm just gonna say, if this person building that huge short has plans and knows something, but we'll see. I keep feeling like every time we make that new low, it's like, well, this is certainly the low. Even more convinced than the last one. It's called being on the wrong side of the trade, guys. So I really hope I'm not there, but we'll see. I can afford to lose one more or 50. I just really don't like losing. Quant looks friggin' crazy. Saw somebody on Twitter yesterday talking about this, saying basically like, yeah, this is proof that we're not in a bear market, because any altcoin for the most part doesn't do this during a bear market. I think there's some validity to that. I think that the volume is receding. I mean, it's kind of rising on the daily, but if you look at the weekly, it was like big volume into the breakout, and now the buyers are starting to exhaust. Purely, you know, objectively speaking, I don't know anything about Quant, but somebody did mention it to me earlier this year, so it would have been nice to have some out of this nice little support resistance breakout. But yeah, it's looking really good. You get a little bit nervous here because, as I always say, guys, if you're in a really bearish, kind of fearful market and you want to short something, find the proxy, like find the thing you can short that is counter trend. You know, like KSM a couple weeks back when we did the perps, we scanned the perps. I think I can find that here. And I was saying, let's see, KSM USDTP. Yeah, like KSM was up here when everything else had already dumped. Remember a couple weeks ago on stream, and I was like, damn, like I think we looked at it like here. And I had set this alert, right? What does it say? Yeah, greater than. And I'd set that alert just saying like, yeah, if we squeeze up into this, like KSM is the way that I will short this market because it was way up in its pattern, in its range, while everything else was just already shitting out. You know, the parachains kind of kept it alive a little longer, the hype. But nothing survives. And I didn't short it, sadly, because it didn't fit my setup. Womp womp. So I'd kind of missed it. Like, yes, 786, 702, but by then I hadn't looked at it then. I've looked at it a few days late. So point being, this was the one perp that looked like it had a short left in it that was really nice and tight risk reward. So is Quant that now? Where the whole market's going to be super bearish. If we lose those lows, Quant has the most room to go? I don't know. Something's cooking over there. People are buying the shit out of it. Isn't it magical that around the 18th to 21st of every month, the market tanks? Clockwork, contracts expiration? Interesting. I hadn't known that. B2 wins. Had not spotted that, but I do find that stuff fascinating. Apparently June, no, it was a day of the month that's like, somebody posted the other day where like every single year it had a 0 win rate, the weekly for June. Like that week particularly has had a red candle every year since its existence. I think for Ethereum. I don't know who that was. Maybe Altcoin Psycho or Luke Martin. One of those two guys posted that chart yesterday. I thought it was interesting. Don't have time to find it while we're on stream, but you could check it out. Basically just said the win rate for this particular week of the year was just literally like every single month. Okay, we're going to go test your theory. Is this for Bitcoin? Let's go see. I find that shit fascinating, so I'm keen to look into it with you. Let's go see. What is it? The 18th to 21st. Okay. Yeah, that definitely dumped. Got lucky. Let's try the next one. 18th to 21st. Yeah, that dumped. 18 to 21st. Oh, okay. Cooking with grease. 18 to 21st. Kind of. I mean, nearby. Shortly after. So sometimes it's into it, sometimes it's after it. A little weird late in the month. 18 to 21st. Oh my God. Right before the big dump. And then we had February. Oh, 18th. Oh, yeah. Dumping around there. Damn. 18th. Well, like, I mean, I guess what's like, where's your margin of error, right? Because you could be like, yeah, okay, December, not really. It was like, yeah, there was 2 red candles 3 days later, but can that count? Gets a little fitting the bias, right? Didn't happen in November, but lately, I would agree that it's basically been the midst of every major dump for 6 months. BTC daily around there. Big clout. Yeah, we've gone bearish every week starting Thursday for the last 4 weeks, maybe longer. The clout getting crushed. Sue me over a day or two. Yeah, no, I mean, definitely since January, like all of this year, mid to late month, it's been like the end of that little leg. So I'd be curious to know what that's all about. You know, it's a market condition. And it'll probably shift as soon as we identify it, because people will identify it and then it'll get washed out. But Yeah, and Thursdays, you know what I noticed, guys, for a long time where I felt like the best entries for the following week came in on Saturday nights at 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. There was like this 4-hour window where I was never at my computer, and the whole next week I'd be looking back at like a pivot low or a pivot high, and I'd be like, damn, where was I during that? And then it was like, oh, Saturday overnight, which would be like the worst time for the best things to happen because nobody's really paying attention. We're all like, yes, weekend off, let's get drunk or whatever we do, right? So I noticed that too. Little things like that. That's the beauty of humans and our ability to recognize patterns. But I don't know. There was once or twice for sure where I traded it because a trade came in during that level. Big fearful Saturday. I think this was a Saturday night. Pretty sure this was a Saturday night. One of these. So, and then last weekend, Saturday night did not work out. It went lower. So, God, looking at the daily here, like just as this EMA, like that rejection, oof. Oh well, as long as it doesn't close today below here, that would be like a big, nasty engulfing, capturing all of last 3 days of price action. I might have to eat shit there. Front run my own stop loss, chop myself out of my own trade. If we just closed across all 3 of these candles, that would not look good. That would look very, very bad. Not going to lie. But I've got my validation set. Right now, it's just a potential higher low. Higher low. So, man with a plan. Stay focused. We'll see. Completely, again, objectively, guys, I'm taking a very risky trade. It's counter to a lot of trends. So keep that in mind. I'm just one guy, and I'm swimming upstream. As I say this, I start to wonder why. Bearish below the 200. Life can be that simple. Exactly. Right? Nick gets it. Like, why overthink it? Why try to be the champ? But here I am. Making a trade. It's, I guess the last thing we'll say. ETHUSD, I should look at it. I'm just so put off by ETH right now, given the ETHBTC chart and the Bitcoin Dominance chart, that I'm not even really charting it. I just don't, Bitcoin needs to do well and recover for anything else to do well and recover. That's kind of how I feel. That's where I'm at. Wow, that noise alert. Oh, shit, guys. Did that play in your ears, too? I thought that was just me. My system audio capture is off. Should be, anyways. My bad. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Is my screen capturing? Oh, shit. Sorry. Capture system audio was on for the screen capture. My God. My bad, guys. Yeah, can we just change that alert sound, please? TradingView forever. It's terrible. Okay, so yeah, let's take a quick look at ETH. Got a little distracted there. Oh, damn it. It's going to do it on everything I click on now. Let's go. Yeah, I mean, look at this. Yeah, I saw a funny tweet today from somebody on Twitter. I think it might have been Gainsey. He just said, like, looking at this, like if you made your career, longing this kind of market structure, you'd be in poverty for a long time. Whoops, that's a terrible line, but you know what I mean. And I can't disagree with him. There's no reason to rush in here and be like, that's the bottom. The market will tell us when it's bottomed. Not the day of, but like in the weeks that follow, whatever, God, what if it does that, but like whatever, you just wait for that. Wait for whatever low, sit out the entire first bounce back rally, let it shake out, and then let it break out. And then even then you can probably get a higher low shortly after. That could take weeks, months. Enjoy your life. Set some alerts. That's the easier way to do it. I'll be honest. My stress levels are higher this week and possibly my PNL lower because I'm trying to do this. But I made the decision and I sized accordingly and I'm holding it. So fuck it. Today it feels hard. Yesterday it felt great. Maybe next week I'll be a genius. I'll certainly tell you one thing as we wrap up. Under no circumstances will being wrong about this long position I'm in wreck me. It'll sting. It'll be a loss that's a little bigger than the ones I'm used to, usually 0.5%, 1%. This one will be about 4%. I hate that. If I look at it purely based on dollar amount, I'm like, that's crazy. I could have gone on vacation. Like, yeah, but oh, I got wrecked. That's just not on the table. It's never on the table. It should never be on the table for you. If you've ever put yourself in a position where you needed the trade to win or you were going to be out of the market, give your goddamn head a shake, get it together. So right now the market is in a state of deep fear. And I think that will shift eventually. I can almost guarantee that there will be a greed cycle again. It could be next month, 2 months. It could be next year, 2 years. But along the way, as Nick mentioned in the chat, bearish below the 200 moving average daily. Can be that simple. Bullish when we're back above. And if you make your life simple with some simple trading plan rules, you will ultimately sleep better and probably have more money when it's all said and done. Your equity curve will grow faster. So there's nothing going on. Oh, I have a lot of rumble in my audio. Sub on and can hear it. If your mic has a low frequency roll of switch, you should turn that on or use 80 hertz high pass filter if you have one. Ooh, okay, gear. I appreciate that. I do have some fancy things. I've got the Scarlet. I'm going to copy paste what you just wrote because I have no idea what you're talking about. 80 hertz high pass filter if you have one. Yeah, and stuff like that. And I'll see if I can fix that. It's weird. I had my gain all the way up for months because it was the only way to get enough volume because this doesn't have a power switch. It's like a USB interface. And then suddenly last week it was just way too loud and I had to turn the gain halfway down. So I'm not hearing much rumble. Sounds pretty clean. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it sounds great, but if you're having the sub and you have a really good system, you'll spot those a little better. Anyways, guys, have a wonderful weekend. Let's hang in there. We're at range lows in a ranging market. So it's a really awkward place to make big decisions about my life around, sell, anything. But you guys know my invalidations. You know where I'm at. And all things considered, Daniel may be the smartest one in the room. He said, I don't know how to trade this stuff well enough in this range. So I'm sitting out. I'm sidelined. I'm in cash. And that cash, for the most part, other than inflation and 2% a year, probably isn't going anywhere. And when the market is a little friendlier and when things are, a little more clear, I'm sure he'll smash it back in and have a good time. Just be careful buying at 43. If we rally up to 43 and tag that 200 moving average from below, that's not a place to suddenly be like, we're a bull. But we'll talk about that hopefully next week if we can get up there. Maybe 2 weeks. Have a wonderful weekend, guys. Let's get Chinese miners back online. Let's get the difficulty readjusted. Let's get through this options, and we'll see you next week. Have a wonderful weekend, and whatever you do, always play from a position of strength. Take care.